Thanks, Nicole, for the introduction. It's wild to think it's been 9 years of being involved with the foundation, and I'm going to just stare at my own face the whole time, so I'll try not to do that. So I'm Jordyn Burger. My pronouns are she, her. I'm an engineer by training, a gluten-free baker by passion, an avid reader, and a fierce advocate for the IBD community here in Massachusetts. I'm here today not only as an ulcerative colitis patient, but patient stakeholder and advocate for the foundation, but I'm also here as a fellow health tech researcher. I've worked in all sorts of devices from colonoscopy to digital pathology to CT and X-ray. I'm here alongside you because I want to see improvements to care quantity, access, and quality of life for IBD patients. 15 years ago, I was diagnosed as 1 in 200 people in the US with IBD. In that short time since, the statistic has changed. We now say 1 in 100 Americans has IBD, which is continuing to increase as time goes on. With cases on the rise, particularly in younger people, we need effective, accessible, and affordable treatments to increase with them. Humor is my coping mechanism, as it is for many other patients you probably heard earlier from a question from someone in the audience. I could spend the entirety of this chat giving you poop puns and tales of pooping my pants around the globe, but instead, I want to highlight areas of the patient experience that are the essence of what it means to be a patient in the US with IBD, the areas that are often harder to capture scientifically. When many of us think of IBD, we think of stigma. We think of multiple trips to the bathroom, urgency, cramping, bleeding, colonoscopies, in short, poop talk. In reality, it's isolation. Most people don't bring a friend with them to the toilet. I know that I don't do that. In reality, for the life of an IBD patient, we adapt. We shift our life cycles to make sure we have access to bathrooms when we need them. We learn when to eat, what to eat, and how much food works for our bodies. We pick employment based on previous experience with prior authorization with insurance companies. We know when we have spikes in fatigue and might need to bring a heating pad to meetings at work. We opt not to kayak on the Charles River so that we're not up a creek without a potty. We calculate our wake-up times to anticipate the amount of time we might need to use the restroom so that we don't have any accidents at work or on the way to work. Although some patients may be in histologic remission, we still experience symptoms on a daily basis. For some reason, it's not normal to talk about going to the bathroom, at least outside of the IBD population, that is. And that's a huge part of the problem. I love that there are more children's books like Everybody Poops to encourage the discourse at a young age, but we have miles to go in empowering patients to understand their bodies, even when they don't have an autoimmune GI disease. What those disconnected don't understand is that IBD is more than just bowels. I tried to think of a new acronym, and all I landed on was IBD, it's bigger, duh. So if anyone has better ideas, please let me know after. For me, some of my symptoms outside of trips to the bathroom include fatigue, anxiety, depression, pain, and joint pain. And then when I have my biologic infusion meds, side effects include headaches and fatigue. Add in the stress and time it takes to find that medication that works, which can be sometimes years. And once you find it, there's extra stress to ensure you can receive it regularly and without delay. Last I counted, I have taken 11 different medications for my IBD, and now take a combination of infusion-based biologics and over-the-counter maintenance pills, which are actually horse pills, calling it back to earlier, so we can do it, just saying. Getting them filled is always a challenge, and I frequently hit my deductible in the first month of the year. None of this includes the particularly complex relationship that IBD patients develop with food, eating, and nutrition. Food is such a double-edged sword. Food fuels you, but when your GI tract is inflamed, it hurts your insides as it goes down the path. Physicians often say patients with IBD drop weight because of their frequency of bowel movements, but I know that I'm not the only patient who will reduce the amount they eat intentionally to try to reduce the amount of pain in times I go to the restroom. When I was first diagnosed, I dropped 10 pounds in 2 weeks because of this, which I was smaller then, I was in high school, but that's a lot on any person. The average person is encouraged to eat a lot of fiber. With an IBD patient who is flaring, we're told to follow some version of the brat diet, so bananas, rice, applesauce, and toast. Roughage, that is raw fruits and vegetables, are the enemy. Better not have bacon or dairy, and any fun food is prohibited. It's pretty boring, especially when flares can last months, if not years for some folks, and clearly lacking in complex nutrients. It's a vicious cycle, yet incredibly hard to break when you build this association between food and pain in your mind. With all this information, it's not hard to see how we IBD patients have anxiety around meals. We often hear that a diagnosis of any kind brings its own mental health challenges. When I was diagnosed, I was told stress does not cause flares. I don't know if stress causes flares, but they definitely don't make them easier. I am very fortunate to have mental health professionals who have helped me find the words to describe and navigate my anxiety and mental health, but the connection between gut and brain is clearly there. Now more than ever, we must learn how the brain-gut connection works. And I know that the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation is continuing to fund research in the microbiome space to do just that. So as Nicole mentioned, I first joined the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation's world through fundraising, teaching me the value of community and the power of our stories through human connection. At first it was take steps, but then I quickly joined a team challenge event, which is half marathons. I am not a runner. I've never been a runner, but there is nothing like waking up at 8 a.m. in Boston in January to run 10 miles on ice while talking about medications and farting and burping in public. With this group, I don't feel embarrassed. I'm fortunate to have found this incredible network of IBD friends the first time I had met people my age. And I even have a group chat that we've dubbed group therapy. Excuse me, it's poop therapy instead of group therapy. There's the joke. They're who I consult first when I have symptoms, if there's new medications, struggles with insurance, and the great toilet paper shortage of 2020. Community and connection is critical for all of us as humans, especially for those of us who puts us in a bathroom stall for hours at a time. It's imperative for us to find ways to connect. Those connections empowered me to find my voice that I now use in advocacy at the local and federal level, first participating in Days of the Hill with the Foundation in 2021. Now, I've been fortunate to serve as a reviewer, patient stakeholder reviewer across several groups within the research branch with all these awesome people since 2022, including fibrosis, IBD Ventures, and the Translational Research Initiatives, also known as TRIOME. So some of you may have seen me there and heard me asking questions. Hopefully they didn't bother you because I will always ask questions. In these meetings, I'm among brilliant IBD experts, physicians, researchers, and industry leaders, and they always emphasize the value of my patient experience. I find myself deep in the abstracts just as I did as an engineering undergrad, dreaming of making medical devices and improving patient care. This work at the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation has been instrumental in my decision to pivot in my career towards human factors and patient advocacy work. Receiving our medication, that is access, and receiving it on time is probably one of the most urgent issues patients face. While I worked at Iterative Health as a design researcher a couple years ago, I had the opportunity to visit a GI clinic in West Texas. There were 2 patients who were receiving an infusion-based trial drug there, and one of those patients drove from New Mexico to West Texas, 2.5 hours away each direction, across state lines and time zones, to get this medication every month. The clinical trial staff were juggling so much, and they were very delayed, but those patients were so thankful. They were incredibly kind that there was something that could help them feel some sense of normal. I am fortunate, for me, that my current care team goes above and beyond the call of duty to ensure I get my infusions on time. I have one this Friday, and we already appealed last week successfully, which is great. Fighting insurance is a big challenge we deal with, and they always take on so much when insurance tries to switch me from my biologics to biosimilars, despite the documented non-responsiveness. For many of my IBD peers, delays and lack of timely access treatment are the norms, which lead to flares, hospitalization, and even surgery, all of which I've seen happen to people in my IBD network in this area. I stand here as a patient, a human factors engineer, a user researcher, a grant proposal reviewer, an advocate, and a human. We all have intersectional identities, and being chronically ill is a part of mine. That's where you all come in. No longer can we solely rely on biomarkers to tell us successful treatments from unsuccessful ones. We must ensure we integrate patient-reported outcomes. I know this, I think you all know this, and now the FDA is requiring more patient involvement in trials, along with more diversity in recruitment. The FDA has acknowledged that clinical trials have historically recruited few non-white folks. We have to do better to ensure our trial populations reflect our patient populations. If you've been in the TRIOME meetings, you've heard me say that before, so I'm just gonna keep saying it till we see change. In addition to increasing diversity, it's time to add new questions to our research protocols and our briefs. We need to find new ways to measure success. Think about questions like, how do you help a patient reduce the number of days that they sleep on the bathroom floor? How do we deal with urgency? What does a symptom-free day look like, or even symptom-full, for someone who is in histologic remission? These are much harder to quantify than a biomarker, but still equally important for patient quality of life. My formal title at work has yet to be patient advocate, but it's impossible to be a chronically ill patient and not bring that part of my identity to work. Every May 19th, on World IBD Day, I would post on Slack to teach my teams about what IBD is. I've been fortunate to bring the local branch of the foundation into work on that day to share their amazing work with my teams. In other areas of my life, I've been able to show my sticky note prednisone tapering schedule to make sure that my developers understand what it's like to transition your medications and slowly wean down. I've been able to show what it's like to fail medications in order to gain approval from insurance companies, appeals, denials, and more. There are moments when it's hard to work in spaces where I am a patient, for sure, but it's ultimately rewarding to see progress and to be a representative on the ground. As a result, I want to highlight 3 takeaways for you, IBD industrial leaders, that I personally have experienced and see incredibly valuable. The first, and I should preface by saying some of these should not be earth-shattering, but I hope that you'll take them to heart. The first is listen to patients. Because of the complexities of healthcare in the US and our illnesses, we patients must be advocates even when we don't have the energy to do so. Have us read your protocols, serve as internal stakeholders, or simply answer questions about life with IBD and what it's like. As much as we industry folks design for the best care scenarios, we must think about the real hurdles patients face. FDA approval is great, commercialization is important, but how will you make sure the patients can benefit without worrying about cost, delays in approval, and ease of use? Second, bring real patients in to show your team the impact. I know it sounds like a given, but there's power in human interaction. Look at all of us here. I told you the power of community in my journey as an IBD patient, and now I am honored to do the same with those days on the Hill that I've mentioned to you. Legislative teams understand when they see the patient telling their story more than the statistic. Just last year, we were meeting with Senator Elizabeth Warren's team to sign an initiative, and within 4 hours, we received results that they had already signed on. Patients make a real impact, and you'll feel it in your teams when you bring us on or even hire us. And then finally, celebrate wins, even when they appear small. While I was at Iterative Health, we were able to successfully randomize a patient into a trial using their AI technology. Yes, trials need more than one patient to be successful, but for that one patient, that can change lives and it can change their future trajectory. The future is bright for patients like me, but there is still much work we have to do. From 3 biologic options when I started Remicade in 2014 to the near dozen that are available today, with probably more, and I just missed them, there is such an increase in holistic approaches and system management. We've seen a lot of change in a short period of time. We may not yet have a cure, but we are well on the road to improved outcomes. In Leah Lakshmi Samara Sinha's awesome book, The Future is Disabled, she uses the term care doula, where disabled elders welcome all with open arms and show them the ropes. In 2009, I was the only person in my family with an IBD diagnosis. Now 2 more of my family have joined the IBD crew, one of them just a few months ago. And it feels like a heavy hit every time, but I'm doing my best to serve as a care doula. For many, a diagnosis is understood as your body failing you. With the increased diagnosis of IBD cases, I want to change that narrative so patients can think, okay, I have this new condition. My sense of normal is changing, but that doesn't mean my whole life has to be upended. I always say that there's power in diagnosis and there's uniqueness to every patient experience. What I experience will not be the same as someone else. With more research and clear patient-facing and patient-centered solutions, we can empower patients to define that new normal together. From all of us with IBD, I just want to take a second to thank you. It's really awesome to see all of the amazing work that's coming down the pipeline and seeing all of you start to collaborate together. I am a very open book, so please ask me questions anytime. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, Jordyn with a Y, Burger like the food. And I will be here today and tomorrow and would love to chat. So with that said, thank you. And what questions can I answer?